Section 1 of Poetic Duets. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Algie Pug and Newgate Novelist. Section 1. Corydon and Phyllis, a Pastoral, to the memory of Mr. J. Cunningham, by William Holland. What means the sad silence around? The herds from the coverts are fled. What means the mute village bells sound? Say, Phyllis, what shepherd is dead? Alexis, the pride of our plain, who sung of our loves in the grove. All nature admired his strain, and called him the poet of love.
He was next, my fond Phyllis, to thee. His life was a summer of love. His fancy was easy and free, and shone like the prospect above. Not a tree on the plain but he loved. He joyed when the fond mother sung. Not a branch in his life he removed, for fear of disturbing their young.
The sweets of the season's perfume were lovelier still in his lays. Pastoral was ever in bloom, so fond was the nymph of his praise. The beautiful tenants of May rejoiced when he courted the green. His morning was lovely and gay, his evening was mild and serene.
But see the sad shepherds appear, the once happy swains of the Tweed. Ye seasons, come follow his bier, for now you are mourners indeed. Come play we his withering rose, the last of his elegant lays. The pastoral current is froze, his own can best picture his praise. End of poem.
Section 2 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. He and She by Christina Rossetti. Should one of us remember, and one of us forget, I wish I knew what each will do, but who can tell as yet?
Should one of us remember, and one of us forget, I promise you what I will do, and I'm content to wait for you, and not be sure as yet. End of poem. Section 3 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, by Christopher Marlowe, and the reply to Marlowe's The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, by Sir Walter Raleigh. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that hills and valleys, dales and fields, woods or steepy mountain yields. And we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers, to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers, and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle. A gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold. A belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs, and if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love.
Reply to Marlowe's The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. If all the world in love were young, and truth in every shepherd's tongue, these pretty pleasures might me move to live with thee and be thy love. But time drives flocks from field to fold, when rivers rage and rocks grow cold, and Philomel becometh dumb, the rest complains of cares to come. The flowers do fade, and wanton fields to wayward winter reckoning yields. A honey tongue, a heart of gall, is fancy's spring, but sorrow's fall. Thy gowns, thy shoes, thy beds of roses, thy cap, thy kirtle, and thy posies, soon break, soon wither, soon forgotten, in folly ripe, in reason rotten. Thy belt of straw and ivy buds, thy coral clasps and amber studs, all those in me no means can move to come to thee and be thy love. But could youth last and love still breed, had joys no date, nor age no need, then those delights my mind might move to live with thee and be thy love. End of poem.
Section 4 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Echoes of Love's House by William Morris. Love gives every gift whereby we long to live.
Love takes every gift and nothing back doth give.
Love unlocks the lips that else were ever dumb.
Love locks up the lips whence all things good might come.
Love makes clear the eyes that else would never see.
Love makes blind the eyes to all but me and thee.
Love turns life to joy till naught is left to gain.
Love turns life to woe till hope is naught and vain.
Love, who changest all, change me nevermore.
Love, who changest all, change my sorrows sore.
Love burns up the world to changeless heaven and blest.
Love burns up the world to a void of all unrest.
And there we twain are left, and no more work we need.
And I am left alone, and who my work shall heed?
Ah, I praise thee, love, for utter joyance won.
And is my praise naught worth for all my life undone? End of poem. Section 5 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. A Recantation by Rudyard Kipling. 1917. To Lydie of the Music Halls. What boots it on the gods to call, since, answered or unheard, we perish with the gods and all things made, except the word.
Our certain fate had touched a heart by 50 years made cold. I judge thee lied, and thy art o'erblown and overbold. But he of whom bereft I suffer vacant days, he on his shield not meanly left, he cherished all thy lays. Witness the magic coffer stocked with convoluted runes, wherein thy very voice was locked and linked to circling tunes. Witness thy portrait, smoke defiled, that decked his shelter place. Life seemed more pleasant, wrote the child, beneath thy well-known face. And when the grudging days restored him for a breath to home, he with fresh crowds of youth adored thee, making mirth in Rome. Therefore I, humble, join the hosts, loyal and loud, who bow to thee as queen of song, and ghosts, for I remember how never more rampant rose the hall at thy audacious line, than when the news came in from Gaul, thy son had followed mine. But thou didst hide it in thy breast, and capering, took the brunt of blaze and blare, and launched the jest that swept next week the front. Singer to children, owls possessed sleep before noon, but thee, wakeful each midnight for the rest, no holocaust shall free.
Yet they who use the word assigned to hearten and make whole, not less than gods have served mankind, though vultures rend their soul. End of poem.
Section 6 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Betrothed by John Davidson. Betrothed to one who loves me dearly, who is a most enskied lady, in sight of every wild and staid eye that knows her body's beauty merely, yet is delight a dead thing to me. She whom I worshipped now I love not. I am worse than dead, if death will move not to save me while it does undo me. And she is fairer, stronger, vaguer than any perfect, splendid statue that looks in neutral marble at you. She has no soul within to plague her. And she is sweeter than the portrait of any tender, sweet Venetian, painted in deathless tints by Titian. But she is dead, surely a sore trait. I looked, and lo, her wondrous beauty! I loved, and lo, she glowed with passion. I reached to heaven, she clung to fashion. She is its queen, I slave to duty. She is still born. Death nursed her, fed her. She is a miracle that's common, a lovely, loveless, soulless woman. The world's sepulchral palace bred her. She loves me? Well, wants to be mated. Married? I must be married to her. She will not see what, were I truer, she should be told, that I am sated with all her divers ways of pleasing, yea, of her very beauty too, sick as one who tires of verse or music, and bound to keep my ache increasing.
He loved me once, but now he's feigning. I loved him not when most I thought it, but from his passing fire I caught it. Now, like the moon's, my fire is waning. I would have one whose love would seize me, light me, inspire me, put life in me, and from the mouldy dead world win me. He loves me not. He shall release me. End of poem. Section 7 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Les Noyades by Algernon Charles Swinburne. Whatever a man of the sons of men shall say to his heart of the Lords above, they have shown man verily, once and again, marvellous mercies and infinite love. In the wild 5th year of the change of things, when France was glorious and blood red, fair with dust of battle and deaths of kings, a queen of men, with helmeted hair, carrier came down to the Loire and slew, till all the ways and the waves waxed red. Bound and drowned, slaying 2 by 2, maidens and young men, naked and wed. They brought on a day to his judgment place one rough with labour and red with fight, and a lady noble by name and face, faultless, a maiden, wonderful, white. She knew not, being for shame's sake blind, if his eyes were hot on her face hard by, and the judge bade strip and ship them and bind bosom to bosom, to drown and die. The white girl winced and whitened, but he caught fire, waxed bright as a great bright flame seen with thunder far out on the sea, laughed hard as the glad blood went and came. Twice his lips quailed with delight, then said,
I have but a word to you all, one word. Bear with me, surely I am but dead.
And all they laughed and mocked him and heard.
Judge when they open the judgment roll. I will stand upright before God and pray. Lord God, have mercy on one man's soul, for his mercy was great upon earth, I say. Lord, if I loved thee, Lord, if I served, if these who darkened thy fair son's face I fought with, sparing not one, nor swerved a hand's breadth, Lord, in the perilous place. I pray thee, say to this man, O Lord, sit thou for him at my feet on a throne. I will face thy wrath, though it bite as a sword, and my soul shall burn for his soul and atone. For Lord, thou knowest, O God most wise, how gracious on earth were his deeds towards me. Shall this be a small thing in thine eyes, that is greater in mine than the whole great sea? I have loved this woman my whole life long, and even for love's sake, when have I said, I love you? When have I done you wrong, living? but now I shall have you dead. Yea, now, do I bid you love me, love? Love me, or loathe, we are one, not twain. But God be praised in his heaven above, for this my pleasure, and that my pain. For never a man, being mean like me, shall die like me till the whole world dies. I shall drown with her, laughing for love, and she mix with me, touching me, lips and eyes. Shall she not know me and see me all through, me, on whose heart as a worm she trod? You have given me, God requite it you, what man yet never was given of God. O sweet one love, O my life's delight, dear, though the days have divided us, lost beyond hope, taken far out of sight, not twice in the world shall the gods do thus. Had it been so hard for my love? But I, though the gods gave all that a god can give, I had chosen rather the gift to die, cease and be glad above all that live. For the Loire would have driven us down to the sea, and the sea would have pitched us from shoal to shoal, and I should have held you, and you held me, as flesh holds flesh, and the soul the soul. Could I change you, help you to love me, sweet? Could I give you the love that would sweeten death? We should yield, go down, locked hands and feet, die, drown together, and breath catch breath. But you would have felt my soul in a kiss, and known that once if I loved you well, and I would have given my soul for this, to burn for ever in burning hell. End of poem. Section 8 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Whoso list to hunt, by Thomas Wyatt. Whoso list to hunt, I know there is a hind. But as for me, alas, I may no more, the vain travail hath worried me so sore. I am of them that farthest cometh behind. Yet may I by no means my wearied mind draw from the deer, but as she fleeth afore, fainting I follow. I leave off therefore, since in the net I seek to hold the wind. Who list her hunt, I put him out of doubt, as well as I may spend his time in vain. And, graven in diamonds, in letters plain, there is written her fair neck round about.
Noli me tangere, for Caesar's I am, and wild to hold, though I seem tame. End of poem.
Section 9 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Sack of the Gods, by Rudyard Kipling. Strangers drawn from the ends of the earth, jewelled and plumed were we. I was lord of the Inca race, and she was queen of the sea. Under the stars, beyond our stars, where the new-forged meteors glow, hotly we stormed Valhalla 1,000,000 years ago.
Ever 'neath high Valhalla hall the well-tuned horns begin, when the swords are out in the underworld, and the weary gods come in. Ever through high Valhalla gate the patient angel goes. He opens the eyes that are blind with hate, he joins the hands of foes.
Dust of the stars was under our feet, glitter of stars above. Wrecks of our wrath dropped reeling down as we fought and we spurned and we strove. Worlds upon worlds we tossed aside and scattered them to and fro, the night that we stormed Valhalla 1,000,000 years ago.
They are forgiven as they forgive all those dark wounds and deep. Their beds are made on the lap of time, and they lie down and sleep. They are forgiven as they forgive all those old wounds that bleed. They shut their eyes from their worshippers, they sleep till the world has need.
She with the star I had marked for my own, I with my set desire, lost in the loom of the night of nights, lighted by worlds afire. met in a war against the gods, where the headlong meteors glow, hewing our way to Valhalla 1,000,000 years ago.
They will come back again as long as the red earth rolls. He never wasted a leaf or a tree. Do you think he would squander souls? End of poem.
Section 10 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. To Morford by Lionel Johnson. A voice on the winds, a voice by the waters wanders and cries.
Oh, what are the winds and what are the waters? Mine are your eyes.
Western the winds are, and western the waters, where the light lies.
Oh, what are the winds and what are the waters? Mine are your eyes.
Cold, cold grow the winds, and wild grow the waters, where the sun dies.
Oh, what are the winds and what are the waters? Mine are your eyes.
And down the night winds, and down the night waters, the music flies.
Oh, what are the winds and what are the waters? Cold be the winds and wild be the waters, so mine be your eyes. End of poem. Section 11 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Silent Lover 1 and 2 by Walter Raleigh. Passions are likened best to floods and streams. The shallow murmur, but the deep are dumb. So, when affection yields discourse, it seems the bottom is but shallow whence they come. They that are rich in words discover that they are poor in that which makes a lover.
Wrong not, sweet empress of my heart, the merits of true passion, with thinking that he feels no smart that sues for no compassion. Silence in love bewrays more woe than words, though ne'er so witty. A beggar that is dumb, you know, may challenge double pity. Then wrong not, dearest to my heart, my true, though secret passion. He smarteth most that hides his smart, and sues for no compassion. End of poem. Section 12 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. One Way of Love and Another Way of Love by Robert Browning. All June I bound the rose in sheaves, now rose by rose I strip the leaves, and strew them where Pauline may pass. She will not turn aside. Alas! Let them lie. Suppose they die. The chance was they might take her eye. How many a month I strove to suit these stubborn fingers to the lute. To-day I venture all I know. She will not hear my music. So break the string, fold music's wing. Suppose Pauline had bade me sing. My whole life long I learned to love. This hour my utmost art I prove, and speak my passion, heaven or hell. She will not give me heaven. 'Tis well. Lose who may, I still can say, those who win heaven, blessed are they.
June was not over, though past the full, and the best of her roses had yet to blow, when a man I know, but shall not discover, since ears are dulled and time discloses, turned him and said with a man's true air, half sighing, a smile in a yawn, as 'twere, "If I tire of your June, will she greatly care?" Well, dear, indoors with you. True, serene deadness tries a man's temper. What's in the blossom June wears on her bosom? Can it clear scores with you? Sweetness and redness, eodem semper. Go, let me care for it greatly or slightly. If June mend her bower now, your hand left unsightly by plucking the roses, my June will do rightly. And after, for pastime, if June be refulgent with flowers in completeness, all petals, no prickles, delicious as trickles of wine poured at mass time, and choose one indulgent to redness and sweetness. Or if, with experience of man and of spider, June use my June lightning, the strong insect ridder, and stop the fresh film work, why, June will consider. End of poem.
Section 13 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Perfume and Memory by Arthur Symons. Shake out your hair about me so that I may feel the stir and scent of those vague odours come and go the way our kisses went. Night gave this priceless hour of love, but now the dawn steals in apace and amorously bends above the wonder of your face. Farewell, between our kisses creeps, you fade, a ghost, upon the air, yet the vacant place still keeps the odour of your hair.
As a perfume doth remain in the folds where it hath lain, so the thought of you, remaining deeply folded in my brain, will not leave me. All things leave me. You remain. Other thoughts may come and go, other moments I may know, that shall waft me, in their going, as a breath blown to and fro, fragrant memories come and go. Only thoughts of you remain in my heart where they have lain, perfumed thoughts of you, remaining, a hid sweetness in my brain. Others leave me, all things leave me, you remain. End of poem. Section 14 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. A Wife in London, December 1899, by Thomas Hardy. 1. The Tragedy. She sits in the tawny vapour that the city lanes have uprolled, behind whose webby fold on fold, like a waning taper, the street lamp glimmers cold. A messenger's knock cracks smartly, flashed news is in her hand, of meaning it dazes to understand, though shaped so shortly. He has fallen in the far south land.
2. The Irony. 'Tis the morrow. The fog hangs thicker. The postman nears and goes. A letter is brought whose lines disclose by the firelight flicker his hand, whom the worm now knows. Fresh, firm, penned in highest feather, page full of his hoped return, and of home-planned jaunts by brake and burn in the summer weather, and of new love that they would learn. End of poem. Section 15 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Names. From Lessing, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I asked my fair one happy day what I should call her in my lay, by what sweet name from Rome or Greece, Lalage, Neaera, Chloris, Sappho, Lesbia, or Doris, Arethusa, or Lucrece.
Ah, replied my gentle fair, beloved, what are names but air? Choose thou whatever suits the line. Call me Sappho, call me Chloris, call me Lalage or Doris, only call me thine. End of poem. Section 16 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. La Belle Dame sans Merci, by John Keats. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest's done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist in fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too.
I met a lady in the meads full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said,
I love thee true.
She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses for. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, ah, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamed on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings, and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La belle dame sans merci hath thee in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And that is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing. End of poem.
Section 17 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Vesture of the Soul by George William Russell. I pitied one whose tattered dress was patched and stained with dust and rain. He smiled on me. I could not guess the viewless spirit's wide domain. He said,
The royal robe I wear trails all along the fields of light. Its silent blue and silver bear for gems the starry dust of night. The breath of joy unceasingly waves to and fro its folds starlit, and far beyond earth's misery I live and breathe the joy of it. End of poem. Section 18 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Conversation Gallant by T.S. Eliot. I observe, our sentimental friend the moon, or possibly, fantastic, I confess, it may be Prester John's balloon, or an old battered lantern hung aloft, to light poor travellers to their distress. She, then.
How you digress!
And I, then, some one frames upon the keys that exquisite nocturne with which we explain the night and moonshine, music which we seize to body forth our vacuity. She, then.
Does this refer to me? Oh no, it is I who am inane.
You, madam, are the eternal humorist, the eternal enemy of the absolute, giving our vagrant moods the slightest twist, with your air indifferent and imperious, at a stroke our mad poetics to confute. And
Are we then so serious? End of poem. Section 19 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Endurance by George William Russell. He bent above. So still her breath, whate'er she breathed he could not say, whether in worlds of life or death. So softly ebbed away, away, the life that had been light to him, so fled her beauty, leaving dim the emptying chambers of his heart, thrilled only by the pang and smart the dull and throbbing agony that suffers still, yet knows not why. Love's immortality so blind dreams that all things with it conjoined must share with it immortal day. But not of this, the touch, the eyes, the laugh, the kiss, fall from it and it goes its way. So blind he wept above her clay.
I did not think that you could die. Only some veil would cover you, our loving eyes could still pierce through, and see, through dusky shadows still, move as of old your wild sweet will, impatient every heart to win, and flash its heavenly radiance in.
Though all the worlds were sunk in rest, the ruddy star within his breast would croon its tale of ancient pain, its sorrow that would never wane, its memory of the days of yore moulded in beauty evermore. Ah, immortality so blind, to dream all things with it conjoined must follow it from star to star, and share with it immortal years. The memory, yearning, grief, and tears fall from it, and it goes afar. He walked at night along the sands, and saw the stars dance overhead. He had no memory of the dead, but lifted up exultant hands to hail the future like a boy, the myriad paths his feet might press. Unhaunted by old tenderness, he felt an inner secret joy, a spirit of unfettered will, through light and darkness moving still within the all, to find its own, to be immortal and alone. End of poem.
Section 20 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Hendecasyllabics by Algernon Charles Swinburne. In the month of the long decline of roses, I, beholding the summer dead before me, set my face to the sea and journeyed silent, gazing eagerly where above the sea mark flame as fierce as the fervid eyes of lions half divided the eyelids of the sunset, till I heard, as it were, a noise of waters, moving tremulous under feet of angels multitudinous, out of all the heavens, knew the fluttering wind, the fluttered foliage, shaken fitfully, full of sound and shadow, and saw, trodden upon by noiseless angels, long mysterious reaches fed with moonlight, sweet sad straits in a soft subsiding channel, blown about by the lips of winds I knew not, winds not born in the north, nor any quarter, winds not warm with the south, nor any sunshine. Heard between them a voice of exultation.
Lo, the summer is dead, the sun is faded, even like as a leaf the year is withered, all the fruits of the day from all her branches gathered, neither is any left to gather. All the flowers are dead, the tender blossoms all are taken away, the season wasted like an ember among the fallen ashes. Now with light of the winter days, with moonlight, light of snow, and the bitter light of hoarfrost, we bring flowers that fade not after autumn, pale white chaplets, and crowns of latter seasons, fair false leaves, but the summer leaves were falser, woven under the eyes of stars and planets, when low light was upon the windy reaches where the flower of foam was blown, a lily dropped among the sonorous fruitless furrows and green fields of this sea that make no pasture, since the winter begins, the weeping winter, all whose flowers are tears, and round his temples iron blossom of frost is bound for ever. End of poem.
Section 21 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. La figlia che piange by T.S. Eliot. O quam te memorem virgo. Stand on the highest pavement of the stair, lean on a garden urn, weave, weave the sunlight in your hair, clasp your flowers to you with a pained surprise, fling them to the ground, and turn with a fugitive resentment in your eyes, but weave, weave the sunlight in your hair.
So I would have had him leave, so I would have had her stand and grieve. So he would have left, as the soul leaves the body torn and bruised, as the mind deserts the body it has used. I should find some way incomparably light and deft, some way we both should understand, simple and faithless as a smile and shake of the hand.
She turned away, but with the autumn weather compelled my imagination many days and many hours. Her hair over her arms, and her arms full of flowers. And I wonder how they should have been together. I should have lost a gesture and a pose. Sometimes these cogitations still amaze the troubled midnight and the noon's repose. End of poem. Section 22 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Julie Jane by Thomas Hardy. Sing, how I would sing, how I would raise the tune when we rode in a wagon from harvesting by the light of the moon. Dance, how I would dance, if a fiddle string did but sound, she would hold out her coats, give a slanting glance, and go round and round. Laugh, how I would laugh, her peony lips would part, as if none such a place for a lover to quaff at the deeps of a heart. Julie, O girl of joy, soon, soon that lover he came, ah yes, and gave thee a baby boy, but never his name. Tolling for her, as you guess, and the baby too. 'Tis well. You knew her in maidhood likewise? Yes, that's her burial bell.
I suppose,
With a laugh she said,
I should blush that I'm not a wife, but how can it matter so soon to be dead what one does in life?
when we sat making the morning by her death-bed side, said she,
Dears, how can you keep from your lover's adorning in honour of me?
bubbling and brightsome-eyed, but now, oh, never again. She chose her bearers before she died from her fancy men. End of poem. Section 23 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Vixi puellis nuper idoneus by Thomas Wyatt. They flee from me that sometime did me seek, with naked foot stalking within my chamber. Once have I seen them, gentle, tame, and meek, that now are wild, and do not once remember that sometime they have put themselves in danger, to take bread at my hand. And now they range, busily seeking in continual change. Thanked be fortune, it hath been otherwise, 20 times better, but once especial, in thin array, after a pleasant guise, when her loose gown did from her shoulders fall, and she me caught in her arms long and small, and therewithal so sweetly did me kiss, and softly said,
Dear heart, how like you this?
It was no dream, for I lay broad awaking, but all is turned now, through my gentleness, into a bitter fashion of forsaking, and I have leave to go of her goodness, but she also to use new-fangledness, but since that I unkindly so am served.
How like you this?
What hath she now deserved? End of poem. Section 24 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. In the Night She Came, by Thomas Hardy. I told her when I left one day that whatsoever weight of care might strain our love, time's merest salt would work no changes there. And in the night she came to me, toothless and wan and old, with leaden concaves round her eyes, and wrinkles manifold. I tremblingly exclaimed to her, "Oh, wherefore do you ghost me thus? I have said that dull defacing time will bring no dreads to us."
"And is that true of you?"
she cried, in voice of troubled tune. I faltered, "Well, I did not think you would test me quite so soon." She vanished with a curious smile, which told me, plainlier than by word, that my staunch pledge could scarce beguile the fear she had averred. Her doubts then wrought their shape in me, and when next day I paid my due caress, we seemed to be divided by some shade. End of poem. Section 25 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Courtship of the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, by Edward Lear. On the coast of Coromandel, where the early pumpkins grow, in the middle of the woods lived the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. 2 old chairs and half a candle, 1 old jug without a handle, these were all his worldly goods. In the middle of the woods, these were all the worldly goods of the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, of the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Once among the bong trees walking, where the early pumpkins grow, to a little heap of stones came the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. There he heard a lady talking to some milk-white hens of Dorking. "'Tis the Lady Jingly Jones, on that little heap of stones sits the Lady Jingly Jones," said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. "Lady Jingly, Lady Jingly, sitting where the pumpkins grow, will you come and be my wife?" said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. "I am tired of living singly, on this coast so wild and shingly. I'm a-weary of my life, if you'll come and be my wife, quite serene would be my life," said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. On this coast of Coromandel, shrimps and watercresses grow, prawns are plentiful and cheap, said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. "You shall have my chairs and candle, and my jug without a handle. Gaze upon the rolling deep, fish is plentiful and cheap. As the sea, my love is deep," said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Lady Jingly answered sadly, and her tears began to flow.
"Your proposal comes too late, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò. I would be your wife most gladly."
Here she twirled her fingers madly.
"But in England I've a mate. Yes, you've asked me far too late, for in England I've a mate, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Mr. Jones, his name is Handel, Handel Jones, Esquire and Co. Dorking fowls delights to send, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Keep, oh keep your chairs and candle, and your jug without a handle. I can merely be your friend. Should my Jones more Dorking send, I will give you 3, my friend, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Though you've such a tiny body, and your head so large doth grow, though your hat may blow away, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò, though you're such a body doddy, yet I wish that I could modify the words I needs must say. Will you please to go away? That is all I have to say, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Bò."
Down the slippery slopes of myrtle, where the early pumpkins grow, to the calm and silent sea fled the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. There, beyond the Bay of Gurtle, lay a large and lively turtle. "You're the cove," he said, "for me. On your back beyond the sea, Turtle, you shall carry me," said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, said the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. Through the silent roaring ocean did the turtle swiftly go, holding fast upon his shell rode the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. with a sad primeval motion, towards the sunset isles of Boshen. Still the turtle bore him well, holding fast upon his shell. Lady Jingly Jones, farewell! Sang the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, sang the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. From the coast of Coromandel did that lady never go. On that heap of stones she mourns for the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. On that coast of Coromandel, in his jug without a handle, still she weeps and daily moans. On that little heap of stones, to her Dorking hen she moans, for the Yonghy Bonghy Bò, for the Yonghy Bonghy Bò. End of poem. Section 26 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Mary Magdalene by James Elroy Flecker. O eyes that strip the souls of men, there came to me the Magdalene, her blue robe with a cord was bound, her hair with Lenten lilies crowned.
Arise,
She said,
God calls for thee, turned to new paths thy feet must be. Leave the fever and the feast, leave the friend thou lovest best, for thou must walk in barefoot ways, to give my dear Lord Jesus praise.
Then answered I, Sweet Magdalene, God's servant, once beloved of men, why didst thou change old ways for new, thy trailing red for corded blue, roses for lilies on thy brow, rich splendour for a barren vow? Gentle of speech, she answered me,
Sir, I was sick with revelry. True, I have scarred the night with sin, a pale and tawdry heroine. But once I heard a voice that said, Who lives in sin is surely dead, but whoso turns to follow me hath joy and immortality.
O Mary, not for this, I cried, didst thou renounce thy scented pride, not for a taste of endless years, or barren joy apart from tears, didst thou desert the courts of men? Tell me thy truth, sweet Magdalene. She trembled, and her eyes grew dim.
For love of him, for love of him. End of poem.
Section 27 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 4 Footprints by Thomas Hardy. Here are the tracks upon the sand where stood last evening she and I, pressed heart to heart and hand to hand. The morning sun has baked them dry. I kissed her wet face, wet with rain, for arid grief had burned up tears, while reached us, as in sleeping pain, the distant gurgling of the weirs.
I have married him, yes, feel that ring. 'Tis a week ago that he put it on. A dutiful daughter does this thing, and resignation succeeds anon. But that I body and soul was yours ere he'd possession, he'll never know. He's a confident man. The husband scores, he says, in the long run. Now, dear, go.
I went, and to-day I pass the spot. It is only a smart the more to endure, and she whom I held is as though she were not, for they have resumed their honeymoon tour. End of poem. Section 28 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Hero by Rabindranath Tagore. Mother, let us imagine we are travelling and passing through a strange and dangerous country. You are riding in a palanquin, and I am trotting by you on a red horse. It is evening, and the sun goes down. The waste of Joradighi lies wan and grey before us. The land is desolate and barren. You are frightened and thinking,
I know not where we have come to.
I say to you, Mother, do not be afraid. The meadow is prickly with spiky grass, and through it runs a narrow broken path. There are no cattle to be seen in the wide field. They have gone to their village stalls. It grows dark and dim on the land and sky, and we cannot tell where we are going. Suddenly you call me and ask me in a whisper,
"What light is that near the bank?"
Just then there bursts out a fearful yell, and figures come running towards us. You sit crouched in your palanquin, and repeat the names of the gods in prayer. The bearers, shaking in terror, hide themselves in the thorny bush. I shout to you, "Don't be afraid, mother, I am here." With long sticks in their hands, and hair all wild about their heads, they come nearer and nearer. I shout, "Have a care, you villains! One step more, and you are dead men." They give another terrible yell, and rush forward. You clutch my hand and say,
"Dear boy, for heaven's sake keep away from them."
I say, "Mother, just you watch me." Then I spur my horse for a wild gallop, and my sword and buckler clash against each other. The fight becomes so fearful, mother, that it would give you a cold shudder could you see it from your palanquin. Many of them fly, and a great number are cut to pieces. I know you are thinking, sitting all by yourself, that your boy must be dead by this time. But I come to you, all stained with blood, and say, "Mother, the fight is over now." You come out and kiss me, pressing me to your heart, and you say to yourself,
"I don't know what I should do if I hadn't my boy to escort me."
1,000 useless things happen day after day, and why couldn't such a thing come true by chance? It would be like a story in a book. My brother would say, "Is it possible? I always thought he was so delicate." Our village people would all say in amazement, "Was it not lucky that the boy was with his mother?" End of poem.
Section 29 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Lady and the Painter by Robert Browning. Yet womanhood you reverence, so you profess.
With heart and soul.
Of which fact this is evidence. To help art study, for some dole of certain wretched shillings, you induce a woman, virgin too, to strip and stand stark naked.
True.
Nor feel you so degrade her?
What, excuse the interruption, clings, half savage-like, around your hat?
Ah, do they please you? Wild bird wings. Next season, Paris prints assert, we must go feathered to the skirt. My modiste keeps on the alert. Owls, hawks, jays, swallows most approve.
Dare I speak plainly?
Oh, I trust.
Then, Lady Blanche, it less would move, in heart of soul of me disgust, did you strip off those spoils you wear, and stand, for thanks, not shillings, bare, to help art like my model there. She well knew what absorbed her. Praise in me for God's surpassing good, who granted to my reverent gaze a type of purest womanhood. You, clothed with murder of his best of harmless beings, stand the test. What is it you know?
That you jest. End of poem. Section 30 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Moon to the Sun and the Day to the Night by Alice Meynell. As the full moon shining there to the sun that lighteth her, am I unto thee for ever, O my secret glory giver! O my light, I am dark but fair, black but fair. Shine, earth loves thee, and then shine and be loved through thoughts of mine. All thy secrets that I treasure, I translate them at my pleasure. I am crowned with glory of thine, thine, not thine. I make pensive thy delight, and thy strong gold silver white. Though all beauty of mine thou makest, yet to earth which thou forsakest, I have made thee fair all night, day all night.
From dawn to dusk, and from dusk to dawn, we two are sundered always, sweet. A few stars shake o'er the high lawn, and the cold sea shore when we meet. The twilight comes with thy shadowy feet. We are not day and night, my fair, but one. It is an hour of hours, and thoughts that are not otherwhere are thought here mid the blown sea flowers, this meeting and this dusk of ours. Delight has taken pain to her heart, and there is dusk and stars for these. Oh, linger, linger! They would not part, and the wild wind comes from overseas with a new song to the olive trees. And when we meet by the sounding pine, sleep draws near to his dreamless brother, and when thy sweet eyes answer mine, peace nestles close to her mournful mother, and hope and weariness kiss each other. End of poem. Section 31 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Her Immortality by Thomas Hardy. Upon a noon I pilgrimed through a pasture, mile by mile, unto the place where I last saw my dead love's living smile. And sorrowing, I lay me down upon the heated sod. It seemed as if my body pressed the very ground she trod. I lay and thought, and in a trance she came and stood me by, the same even to the marvellous ray that used to light her eye.
You draw me and I come to you, my faithful one,
she said, in voice that had the moving tone it bore ere breath had fled. She said,
"'Tis 7 years since I died, few now remember me. My husband clasps another bride, my children's love has she. My brethren, sisters, and my friends care not to meet my sprite. Who prized me most I did not know till I passed down from sight."
I said, my days are lonely here, I need thy smile alway. I'll use this night my ball or blade, and join thee ere the day. A tremor stirred her tender lips, which parted to dissuade.
"That cannot be, O friend,"
she cried.
"Think, I am but a shade but in its mindful ones has immortality. By living, me you keep alive, by dying you slay me. In you resides my single power of sweet continuance here. On your fidelity I count through many a coming year."
I started through me at her plight, so suddenly confessed. Dismissing late distaste for life, I craved its bleak unrest. I will not die, my one of all, to lengthen out thy days. I'll guard me from minutest harms that may invest my ways. She smiled and went. Since then she comes, oft when her birth moon climbs, or at the season's ingresses, or anniversary times. But grows my grief, when I surcease, through whom alone lives she, ceases my love, her words, her ways, never again to be. End of poem. Section 32 of Poems. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Meeting at Night and Parting at Morning by Robert Browning. The grey sea and the long black land, and the yellow half moon, large and low, and the startled little waves that leap in fiery ringlets from their sleep, as I gain the cove with pushing prow, and quench its speed i' the slushy sand. Then a mile of warm sea-scented beach, 3 fields to cross till a farm appears, a tap at the pane, the quick sharp scratch and blue spurt of a lighted match, and a voice less loud, through its joys and fears, than the two hearts beating, each to each.
Round the cape of a sudden came the sea, and the sun looked over the mountain's rim, and straight was a path of gold for him, and the heed of a world of men for me. End of poem. Section 33 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Before Meeting and After Meeting by Arthur Symons. I know not how our eyes first met, I only know that, night by night, for one long instant we forget all but our instant of delight. Child, I have never heard you speak, I know not of your face by day, nor if the rose upon your cheek with night's spent roses faints away. So far apart from me you seem, ever about to be so near, I must have dreamed you in some dream, I do but dream that you are here. Well, no awakening may there be, I look to you in fairyland, from fairyland you look to me, we smile and seem to understand.
Now that we have met at last, long desired, we who, waiting, never tired all the past, we who waited for today, you and I, seeing fortune pass us by on her way. Now her love has grown with years, 3 years old, we remember and behold hopes and fears like a dream that having been fades and flies, as I look into your eyes, O my queen! And I hold your hand for sign, and you smile, as if always, all the while, you were mine. And we seem to know each other far too well to have anything to tell one another. All was said and overpast long ago. We who love each other so meet at last. End of poem. Section 34 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in a public domain. The Workbox by Thomas Hardy. See, here's the workbox, little wife, that I made of polished oak.
He was a joiner of village life, she came of borough folk. He holds the present up to her, as with a smile she nears, and answers to the profferer, "'Twill last all my sewing years."
I warrant it will, and longer too. 'Tis a scantly that I got of poor John Waywood's coffin, who died of they knew not what. The shingled pattern that seems to cease against your box's rim continues right on in the piece that's underground with him. And while I worked it made me think of timber's varied doom, 1 inch where people eat and drink, the next inch in a tomb. But why do you look so white, my dear, and turn aside your face? You knew not that good lad, I fear, though he came from your native place.
How could I know that good young man, though he came from my native town, when he must have left there earlier than I was a woman grown?
Oh, no, I should have understood. It shocked you that I gave to you 1 end of a piece of wood, whose other is in the grave?
Don't, dear, despise my intellect. Mere accidental things of that sort never have effect on my imaginings. Yet still her lips were limp and wan, her face still held aside, as if she had known not only John, but known of what he died. End of poem.
Section 35 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Elf Bride by Thomas James Wise and George Borrow. There was a youthful swain one day did ted the new-mown grass. There came a gay and lovely May from out the nigh morass. Clad in the dress of silk was she, green as the leaves which deck the tree. Her head so winsomely to see with bulrush plaited was. That lass he wooed, his suit she heeds, and married are the pair. To bridal bed his wife he leads, but what befell him there? He found, fear-stricken and amazed, that he a rough oak trunk embraced, instead of the enchanting waist of his mysterious fair. Then straight abroad a voice he heard, which sang the window through. These were the words the voice preferred, if my report be true.
Come out to her whom thou didst wed, upon my mead thy couch is spread.
From this he guessed with some elf maid that he had had to do. End of poem. Section 36 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Vision of Love by George William Russell. The twilight fleeted away in pearl on the stream, and night, like a diamond dome, stood still in our dream. Your eyes like burnished stones, or as stars were bright with the sudden vision that made us one with the night.
We loved in infinite spaces, forgetting here the breasts that were lit with life and the lips so near, till the wizard willows waved in the wind, and drew me away from the fullness of love and down to you.
Our love was so vast that it filled the heavens up, but the soft white form I held was an empty cup. When the willows called me back to earth with their sigh, and we moved as shades through the deep that was you and I. End of poem. Section 37 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Raven and the King's Daughter by William Morris. King's daughter, sitting in a tower so high, fair summer is on many a shield. Why weepest thou as the clouds go by? Fair sing the swans 'twixt firth and field. Why weepest thou in a window seat, till the tears run through thy fingers sweet?
I weep because I sit alone betwixt these walls of lime and stone. Fair folk are in my father's hall, but for me he built this guarded wall. And here the gold on the green I sow, nor tidings of my true love know.
King's daughter, sitting above the sea, I shall tell thee a tale shall gladden thee. Yestreen I saw a ship go forth, when the wind blew merry from the north, and by the tiller Steingrim sat, and oh, but my heart was glad thereat, for 'twixt ashen plank and dark blue sea his sword sang sweet of deeds to be.
O barren sea, thou bitter bird, and a barren tale my ears have heard.
Thy father's men were hard thereby, in byrnie bright and helmet high.
O, worser waxeth thy story far, for these drew upon me bolt and bar. Fly south, O fowl, to the field of death, for nothing sweet thy grey neb saith.
Oh, there was Olaf the lily rose, as fair as any oak that grows.
O sweet bird, what did he then among the spears of my father's men?
'Twixt ashen plank and dark blue sea he sang, my true love waiteth me.
As well as this dull floor knows my feet, I am not weary yet, my sweet.
He sang, as once her hand I had, her lips at last shall make me glad.
As once our fingers met, O love, so shall our lips be fain thereof.
He sang, come rack and iron and flame, for what shall breach the wall but fame?
Be swift to rise and set, O sun, lest life 'twixt hope and death be done.
King's daughter sitting in tower so high, a gift for my tale ere forth I fly. The gold from thy finger, fair and fine, thou hadst it from no love of thine.
By my father's ring another there is, I had it with my mother's kiss. Fly forth, O fowl, across the sea to win another gift of me. Fly south to bring me tidings true, fair summer is on many a shield, of the eve grown red with the battle dew. Fair sing the swans 'twixt firth and field.
King's daughter, sitting in tower so high, fair summer is on many a shield. Tidings to hearken ere thou die, fair sing the swans twixt firth and field. In the Frankish land the spear points met, and wide about the field was wet, and high ere the cold moon quenched the sun, blew Steingrim's horn for battle won.
Fair fall thee, fowl, tell tidings true of deeds that men that day did do.
Steingrim before his banner went, and helms were broke and burnies rent.
A doughty man and good at need, tell men of any other steed?
Where Steingrim through the battle bore, still Olaf went a foot before.
O fair with deeds the world doth grow, where is my true love gotten now?
Upon the deck beside the mast he lieth now, and sleepeth fast.
Heard'st thou before his sleep began that he spake word of any man?
Methought of thee he sang a song, but nothing now he saith for long.
And wottest thou where he will wend with the world before him from end to end?
Before the battle joined that day, Steingrim a word to him did say. If we bring the banner back in peace, in the king's house much shall my fame increase, till there no guarded door shall be, but it shall open straight to me. Then to the bower we twain shall go, where thy love the golden seam doth sow. I shall bring thee in and lay thy hand about the neck of that lily wand, and let the king be lief or loth, one bed that night shall hold you both. No north belike runs Steingrim's prow, and the rain and the wind from the south do blow.
Lo, fowl of death, my mother's ring, but the bridal song I must learn to sing. And fain were I for a space alone, for oh the wind, and the wind doth moan. And I must array the bridal bed. Fair summer is on many a shield, for oh the rain, and the rain drifts red. Fair sing the swans twixt firth and field.
Before the day from the night was born, fair summer is on many a shield. She heard the blast of Steingrim's horn, fair sing the swans twixt firth and field. Before the day was waxen fair, were Steingrim's feet upon the stair. O bolt and bar they fall away, but heavy are Steingrim's feet today. O heavy the feet of one who bears the longing of days and the grief of years. Lie down, thou lily wand, that on thy neck I may lay his hand, whether the king be lief or loth. Today one bed shall hold you both. Oh, thou art still as he is still, so sore as ye long to talk your fill, and good it were that I depart, now heart is laid so close to heart. For sure ye shall talk so left alone, fair summer is on many a shield, of days to be below the stone. Fair sing the swans twixt firth and field. End of poem.
Section 38 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Bailiff's Daughter of Islington, by Anonymous. There was a youth, and a well-beloved youth, and he was an esquire's son. He loved the bailiff's daughter dear, that lived in Islington. But she was coy, and she would not believe that he did love her so. No, nor at any time she would any countenance to him show. But when his friends did understand his fond and foolish mind, they sent him up to fair London an apprentice for to bind. And when he had been 7 long years and his love he had not seen,
many a tear have I shed for her sake, when she little thought of me.
all the maids of Islington went forth to sport and play, all but the bailiff's daughter dear, she secretly stole away. She put off a gown of grey, and put on her puggish attire, she's up to fair London gone, her true love to require. As she went along the road, the weather being hot and dry, there was she aware of her true love at length came riding by. She stepped to him as red as any rose, and took him by the bridle ring. I pray you, kind sir, give me 1 penny to ease my weary limb.
I prithee, sweetheart, canst thou tell me where that thou wast born?
At Islington, kind sir, said she, where I have had many a scorn.
I prithee, sweetheart, canst thou tell me whether thou dost know the bailiff's daughter of Islington?
She's dead, sir, long ago.
Then will I sell my goodly steed, my saddle, and my bow. I will into some far country, where no man doth me know.
O stay, thou goodly youth, she's alive, she is not dead. Here she standeth by thy side, and is ready to be thy bride.
Oh farewell grief, and welcome joy, 10,000 times and o'er, for now I have seen my own true love, that I thought I should have seen no more. End of poem. Section 39 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Blessed Damozel by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. The blessed damozel leaned out from the gold bar of heaven. Her eyes were deeper than the depth of waters stilled at even. She had 3 lilies in her hand, and the stars in her hair were 7. Her robe, ungirt from clasp to hem, no wrought flowers did adorn, but a white rose of Mary's gift, for service meetly worn. Her hair that lay along her back was yellow like ripe corn. Her seemed she scarce had been a day one of God's choristers. The wonder was not yet quite gone from that still look of hers, albeit to them she left her day had counted as 10 years. To one it is 10 years of years, yet now and in this place, surely she leaned o'er me, her hair fell all about my face. Nothing, the autumn fall of leaves, the whole year sets apace. It was the rampart of God's house that she was standing on, by God built over the sheer depth the which is space begun, so high that looking downward thence she scarce could see the sun. It lies in heaven, across the flood of ether as a bridge, beneath the tides of day and night, with flame and darkness ridge the void, as low as where this earth spins like a fretful midge. Around her lovers, newly met, mid deathless love's acclaims, spoke evermore among themselves their heart-remembered names, and the souls mounting up to God went by her like thin flames. And still she bowed herself and stooped out of the circling charm, until her bosom must have made the bar she leaned on warm, and the lilies lay as if asleep along her bended arm. From the fixed place of heaven she saw time like a pulse shake fierce through all the worlds. Her gaze still strove within the gulf to pierce its path, and now she spoke as when the stars sang in their spheres. The sun was gone now, the curled moon was like a little feather fluttering far down the gulf, and now she spoke through the still weather. Her voice was like the voice the stars had when they sang together. Ah, sweet, even now in that bird's song strove not her accents there fain to be hearkened? When those bells possessed the midday air, strove not her steps to reach my side down all the echoing stair?
I wish that he were come to me, for he will come,
she said.
Have I not prayed in heaven? On earth, Lord, Lord, has he not prayed? Are not 2 prayers a perfect strength, and shall I feel afraid? When round his head the aureole clings, and he is clothed in white, I'll take his hand and go with him to the deep wells of light. As unto a stream we will step down, and bathe there in God's sight. We too will stand beside that shrine, occult, withheld, untrod, his lamps are stirred continually with prayers sent up to God, and see our old prayers, granted, melt each like a little cloud. We two will lie in the shadow of that living mystic tree, within whose secret growth the dove is sometimes felt to be, while every leaf that his plumes touch saith his name audibly. And I myself will teach to him, I myself, lying so, the songs I sing here, which his voice shall pause in, hushed and slow, and find some knowledge at each pause, or some new thing to know.
Alas, we two, thou say'st, yea, one wast thou with me that once of old. But shall God lift to endless unity the soul, whose likeness with thy soul was but its love for thee?
We two,
She said,
will seek the groves where the Lady Mary is, with her 5 handmaidens, whose names are 5 sweet symphonies, Cecily, Gertrude, Magdalene, Margaret and Rosalie's. Circle-wise sit they, with bound locks and foreheads garlanded, into the fine cloth white like flame weaving the golden thread, to fashion the birth-robes for them who are just born, being dead. He shall fear, haply, and be dumb. Then will I lay my cheek to his, and tell about our love, not once abashed or weak. And the dear mother will approve my pride, and let me speak. Herself shall bring us, hand in hand, to him round whom all souls kneel, the clear-ranged unnumbered heads bowed with their aureoles, and angels meeting us shall sing to their citherns and citoles. There will I ask of Christ the Lord thus much for him and me, only to live as once on earth with love, only to be, as then awhile, for ever now together, I and he.
She gazed and listened, and then said, less sad of speech than mild,
All this is when he comes.
She ceased. The light thrilled towards her, filled with angels in strong level flight. Her eyes prayed and she smiled. I saw her smile. But soon their path was vague in distant spheres. And then she cast her arms along the golden barriers, and laid her face between her hands, and wept. I heard her tears. End of poem.
Section 40 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Memory of Earth by George William Russell. In the wet dusk silver sweet, down the violet-scented ways, as I moved with quiet feet, I was met by mighty days. On the hedge the hanging dew glassed the eve and stars and skies. While I gazed a madness grew into thundered battle cries. Where the hawthorn glimmered white, flashed the spear and fell the stroke. Ah, what faces pale and bright where the dazzling battle broke! There a hero-hearted queen with young beauty lit the van. Gone! The darkness flowed between all the ancient wars of man. While I paced the valley's gloom, where the rabbits pattered near, shone a temple and a tomb with the legend carven clear.
Time put by a myriad fates that her day might dawn in glory. Death made wide a million gates so to close her tragic story. End of poem. Section 41 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Opportunity from Machiavelli by James Elroy Flecker. But who art thou, with curious beauty graced? O woman, stamped with some bright heavenly seal, why go thy feet on wings, and in such haste?
I am that maid whose secret few may steal, called Opportunity. I hasten by because my feet are treading on a wheel, being more swift to run than birds to fly. And rightly on my feet my wings I wear, to blind the sight of those who track and spy. Rightly in front I hold my scattered hair to veil my face, and down my breast to fall, lest men should know my name when I am there. And leave behind my back no wisp at all for eager folk to clutch, what time I glide so near, and turn, and pass beyond recall.
Tell me, who is that figure at thy side?
Penitence. Mark this well, that by decree who lets me go must keep her for his bride. And thou hast spent much time in talk with me, busied with thoughts and fancies vainly grand, nor hast remarked, O fool, neither dost see how lightly I have fled beneath thy hand. End of poem.
Section 42 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Duet by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Is it the wind of the dawn that I hear in the pine overhead?
No, but the voice of the deep as it hollows the cliffs of the land.
Is there a voice coming up with the voice of the deep from the strand? One coming up with a song in the flush of the glimmering red?
Love that is born of the deep coming up with the sun from the sea.
Love that can shape or can shatter a life till the life shall have fled?
Nay, let us welcome him, love that can lift up a life from the dead.
Keep him away from the lone little isle. Let us be, let us be.
Nay, let him make it his own, let him reign in it. It is he, love that is born of the deep coming up with the sun from the sea. End of poem.
Section 43 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Once in a Saintly Passion by James Thomson. Once in a saintly passion I cried with desperate grief, O Lord, my heart is black with guile, of sinners I am chief. Then stooped my guardian angel, and whispered from behind,
Vanity, my little man, you're nothing of the kind. End of poem. Section 44 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Love's Arithmetic by Edward Sherburne. By a gentle river laid, Thyrsis to his Phyllis said,
Equal to these sandy grains is the number of my pains, and the drops within their bounds speak the sum of all my wounds.
Phyllis, who like passion burns, Thyrsis' answer thus returns. Many as the earth hath leaves are the griefs my heart receives, and the stars, which heaven inspires, reckon my consuming fires. Then the shepherd in the pride of his happy love replied,
With the choristers of air shall our numerous joys compare, and our mutual pleasures vie with the cupids in thine eye.
Thus the willing shepherdess did her ready love express. In delights our pains shall cease, and our war be cured by peace. We shall count our griefs with blisses, 1,000 torments, 1,000 kisses. End of poem. Section 45 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells, what a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells, what a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight from the molten golden notes, and all in tune, what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells! How it swells! How it dwells on the future! How it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells.
Hear the loud alarum bells, brazen bells! What tale of terror now their turbulency tells! In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright! Too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek out of tune, in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire, and a resolute endeavour, now, now to sit, or never, by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, bells, bells! What a tale their terror tells of despair! How they clang and clash and roar! What a horror they outpour on the bosom of the palpitating air! Yet the ear it fully knows, by the twanging and the clanging, how the danger ebbs and flows. Yet the ear distinctly tells, in the jangling and the wrangling, how the danger sinks and swells, by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells. Of the bells! Of the bells, 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 bells! In the clamour and the clangour of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells! What a world of solemn thought their monody compels! In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy meaning of their tone! For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan. And the people, ah, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple, all alone. And who, tolling, 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 in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human, they are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls a paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells. And he dances and he yells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, 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 as he knells, 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 in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells. End of poem.
Section 46 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black-Eyed Susan by John Gay. All in the downs the fleet was moored, the streamers waving in the wind, when Black-Eyed Susan came aboard. "Oh, where shall I my true love find? Tell me, ye jovial sailors, tell me true, if my sweet William sails among the crew." William, who high upon the yard rocked with the billow to and fro, soon as her well-known voice he heard, he sighed, and cast his eyes below. The cord slides swiftly through his glowing hands, and quick as lightning on the deck he stands. So the sweet lark, high poised in air, shuts close his pinions to his breast, if chance his mate's shrill call he hear, and drops at once into her nest. The noblest captain in the British fleet might envy William's lip those kisses sweet.
"Oh, Susan, Susan, lovely dear, my vow shall ever true remain. Let me kiss off that falling tear, we only part and meet again. Change as ye list, ye winds, my art shall be the faithful compass that still points to thee. Believe not what the landmen say, who tempt with doubts thy constant mind. They'll tell ye, sailors, when away, in every port a mistress find. Yes, yes, believe 'em when they tell thee so, for thou art present wheresoe'er I go. If to fair India's coast we sail, thy eyes are seen in diamonds bright. Thy breath is Afric's spicy gale, thy skin is ivory so white. Thus every beauteous object that I view wakes in my soul some charm of lovely Sue. Though battle call me from thy arms, let not my pretty Susan mourn. Though cannons roar, yet safe from harms, William shall to his dear return. Love turns aside the balls that round me fly, lest precious tears should drop from Susan's eye.
The boatswain gave the dreadful word, the sails their swelling bosoms spread. No longer must she stay aboard. They kissed, she sighed, he hung his head. Her lessening boat unwilling rows to land. Adieu, she cries, and waved her lily hand. End of poem.
Section 47 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Duck and the Kangaroo by Edward Lear. Said the duck to the kangaroo,
Good gracious, how you hop! Over the fields and the water too, as if you never would stop. My life is a bore in this nasty pond, and I long to go out in the world beyond. I wish I could hop like you.
said the duck to the kangaroo.
Please give me a ride on your back,
said the duck to the kangaroo.
I would sit quite still and say nothing but quack the whole of the long day through. And we'd go to the Dee and the Jelly Bow Lee, over the land and over the sea. Please take me a ride, oh do,
said the duck to the kangaroo. Said the kangaroo to the duck, this requires some little reflection. Perhaps on the whole it might bring me luck. And there seems but one objection, which is, if you'll let me speak so bold, your feet are unpleasantly wet and cold, and will probably give me the rheumatiz, said the kangaroo. Said the duck,
As I sat on the rocks I have thought over that completely, and I bought 4 pairs of worsted socks, which fit my web feet neatly, and to keep out the cold I've bought a cloak, and every day a cigar I'll smoke, all to follow my own dear true love of a kangaroo.
said the kangaroo, I'm ready, all in the moonlight pale, but to balance me well, dear duck, sit steady, and quite at the end of my tail. So away they went with a hop and a bound, and they hopped the whole world 3 times round, and who so happy, oh who, as the duck and the kangaroo? End of poem. Section 48 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Joseph and Mary by James Elroy Flecker. Mary, art thou the little maid who plucked me flowers in spring? I know thee not. I feel afraid thou'rt strange this evening. A sweet and rustic girl I won, what time the woods were green, no woman with deep eyes that shone and the pale brows of a queen.
Inattentive to his words, a stranger came with feet of flame and told me this strange thing. For all I was a village maid, my son should be a king.
A king, dear wife? Whoever knew of kings in stables born?
Do you hear in the dark and starlit blue the clarion and the horn?
Mary, alas, lest grief and joy have sent thy wits astray. But let me look on this my boy, and take the wraps away.
Behold the lad.
I dare not gaze. Light streams from every limb.
The winter sun has stored his rays and passed the fire to him. Look eastward, look! I hear a sound. Oh, Joseph, what do you see?
The snow lies quiet on the ground and glistens on the tree. The sky is bright with the stars' great light, and clearly I behold 3 kings descending yonder hill, whose crowns are crowns of gold. O Mary, what do you hear and see with your brow toward the west?
The snow lies glistening on the tree and silent on earth's breast, and strong and tall, with lifted eyes, 7 shepherds walk this way, and angels breaking from the skies dance and sing hymns and pray.
I wonder much at these bright kings, the shepherds I despise.
You know not what a shepherd sings, nor see his shining eyes. End of poem.
Section 49 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Ballad of the Dark Lady. A fragment by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Beneath yon birch with silver bark, and boughs so pendulous and fair, the brook falls scattered down the rock, and all is mossy there. And there upon the moss she sits, the dark lady, in silent pain. The heavy tear is in her eye, and drops and swells again. 3 times she sends her little page up the castled mountain's breast, if he might find the knight that wears the griffin for his crest. The sun was sloping down the sky, and she had lingered there all day, counting moments, dreaming fears. Oh, wherefore can he stay? She hears a rustling o'er the brook, she sees far off a swinging bough.
"'Tis he, 'tis my betrothed knight, Lord Falkland, it is thou."
She springs, she clasps him round the neck, she sobs 1,000 hopes and fears, her kisses glowing on his cheeks she quenches with her tears.
"My friends with rude and gentle words they scoff and bid me fly to thee. Oh, give me shelter in thy breast, oh, shield and shelter me. My Henry, I have given thee much, I gave what I can ne'er recall. I gave my heart, I gave my peace, oh, heaven, I gave thee all."
The knight made answer to the maid, while to his heart he held her hand. 9 castles hath my noble sire, none statelier in the land. The fairest one shall be my love's, the fairest castle of the 9. Wait only till the stars peep out, the fairest shall be thine. Wait only till the hand of eve hath wholly closed yon western bars, and through the dark we 2 will steal beneath the twinkling stars.
The dark? The dark? No, not the dark. The twinkling stars? How, Henry, how? Oh, God! 'Twas in the eye of noon he pledged his sacred vow. And in the eye of noon my love shall lead me from my mother's door, sweet boys and girls all clothed in white, strewing flowers before. But first the nodding minstrels go with music meet for lordly bowers, the children next in snow-white vests, strewing buds and flowers. And then my love and I shall pace, my jet-black hair in pearly braids, between our comely bachelors and blushing bridal maids. End of poem.
Section 50 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Prophecy of Vala by Lizzie Doughton. I have walked with the Fates and the Furies mid the wrecks of the mighty past. I have stood in the giant shadows which the ages have backward cast, and I've heard the voices of prophets come down in a lengthening chain, translating the truth eternal and making its meaning plain. Backward still, ever backward, mid wreck and ruin I trod, seeking life's secret sources and the primal truths of God. Tell me, I cried, O prophet, thou shade of the mighty past, what of the truth in the future? Is its horoscope yet cast? Thou didst give it its birth and being, thou didst cradle it in thy breast. Show me its shining orbit and the place of its final rest. a sound like the restless earthquake, a crash like the crack of doom, and a fiery fulmination streamed in through the frightened gloom. I stood in the halls of Odin, and the great All-Father shone like the centre and sun of being mid the glories of his throne. And Thor, with his mighty hammer upraised in his giant hand, stood ready to wake the thunder at his sovereign lord's command. "O Thor," said the mighty Odin, "our omens are all of ill, for the dragon gnaweth sharply at the roots of Yggdrasil. I hear the wild Valkyren as they shriek on the battle plain, and the moans of the faithful Nornen as they weep over Baldur slain. O woe to the serpent Loki, and to Herda's reckless ruth, for goodness is slain of evil, and falsehood hath conquered truth. Now call thou on mystic Vala as she sleeps in the grave of time, where the hoary age hath written her name in frosty rime. She can tell when the sun will darken, when the stars shall cease to burn, when the sleeping dead shall waken, and when Baldur shall return." A sound like the rushing tempest, and the wondrous hammer fell, and the great Heimskringla shuddered, and swayed like a mighty bell. There were mingled murmurs and discords, like the wailing of troubled souls, like the gnomes at their fiery forges, like the howlings of restless ghouls. Then out of the fiery covert of the tempest and the storm, like a vision of troubled slumber, came a woman's stately form. There fell a hush as at midnight, when the sheeted dead awake, and even the silence shuddered, as her words of power she spake.
Mighty Odin, I am Vala, I have heard your thunder call. I have heard the woeful wailing sounding forth from Wingolf's hall, and I know that beauteous Baldur, loved of all the gods, is slain, that the evil Loki triumphs, and on Horda rests the stain. But my words shall fail to tell you aught concerning him you mourn, for the leaves that bear the record from the tree of life are torn, and while Hekla's fires shall glow, or the bubbling geysers flow, of his fate no one shall know. Understand you this, or no? I will sing a solemn saga, I will chant a runic rhyme, weave a wild prophetic Edda from the scattered threads of time. Know, O Odin, mighty Odin, that thy sons shall all be slain, where the wild Valkyrian gather on the bloody battle plain, and thy throne itself shall tremble with the stern resistless shock which shall rend the world asunder at the day of Ragnarok. Other stars the night shall know, from the rock shall waters flow, and from ruin beauty grow. Understand you this, or no? Vainly shall the faithful Nornin water drooping Yggdrasil, for the wrathful restless dragon at its roots is gnawing still. Loki's evil arts shall triumph, Horder's eyes be dark with night, till the day of recreation brings the buried truth to light. Then a greater god than Odin over all the worlds shall reign, and my saga's mystic meaning as the sunlight shall be plain. Out of evil good shall grow, doubt me not, for time shall show. Understand you this, or no? Fare you well, I go, I go.
There came a voice as of thunder, with a gleam of lurid light, and the mystic Vala vanished like a meteor of the night. Then I saw that the truth of the present is but the truth of the past, but each phase is greater and grander and mightier than the last, that the past is ever prophetic of that which is yet to be, and that God reveals his glory by slow and distinct degree. Yet still are the nations weeping o'er the graves of the truth and right. Lo, I summon another Vala, let her prophesy to-night. With the amaranth and the myrtle, and the asphodel on her brow, still wet with the dew of the kingdom, doth she stand before you now.
Not with sound of many thunders, not with miracles and wonders would I herald forth my coming from the peaceful spirit shore, but in God's own love descending, with your aspirations blending, I would teach you of the future, that you watch and weep no more. God is God from the creation, truth alone is man's salvation. But the God that now you worship soon shall be your God no more. For the soul, in its unfolding, evermore its thought remoulding, learns more truly, in its progress, how to love and to adore. Evil is good, twin brother, born of God and of none other. And though truth seems slain of error, through the ills that men deplore, yet, still nearer to perfection, she shall know a resurrection, passing on from ceaseless glory unto glory evermore. From the truths of former ages, from the world's close-lettered pages, man shall learn to meet more bravely all the life that lies before. For the day of retribution is the final restitution of the good, the true, the holy, which shall live for evermore. Understand you this, or no? Fare you well, I go, I go. End of poem. Section 51 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Crocus by Herbert Trench. On mountains the crocus, ere hollows be clear, in the bed of the snowdrift will rise and appear. Aloft the pure crocus, born under the snow, in the sun is left trembling, all bare to his glow, like the heart of the woman who listens to love in the forests below.
O light born, how oft shall I drink in like wine thy body, cloud soft, earth's marvel, yet mine? How oft shall I dare, unabsolved by death, in the flood of thy hair, in the flame of thy breath? From the incense boat sun hast thou wandered, a dream from a time beyond death.
And she yearns to respond to that strain out of reach, to that glowing and subtle stream spirit of speech. But she weeps, too childish for love is the span of the half-bestrung lyre of the language of man. So she breathes the sun-song of the crocus. Reveal it, repeat it, who can? End of poem.
Section 52 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Ullalume by Edgar Allan Poe. The skies they were ashen and sober, the leaves they were crisped and sere, the leaves they were withering and sere. It was night in the lonesome October of my most immemorial year. It was hard by the dim lake of Auber, in the misty mid-region of Weir. It was down by the dank tarn of Auber, in the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. Here once, through an alley titanic of cypress I roamed with my soul, of cypress with Psyche, my soul. There were days when my heart was volcanic as the scoriac rivers that roll, as the lavas that restlessly roll their sulphurous currents down Yarnick, in the ultimate climes of the pole, that groan as they roll down Mount Yarnick in the realms of the boreal pole. Our talk had been serious and sober, but our thoughts they were palsied and sere, our memories were treacherous and sere, for we knew not the month was October, and we marked not the night of the year. Night of all nights in the year! We noted not the dim lake of Auber, though once we had journeyed down here. We remembered not the dank tarn of Auber, nor the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. And now, as the night was senescent, and star-dials pointed to morn, as the star-dials hinted of morn, at the end of our path a liquescent and nebulous lustre was born, out of which a miraculous crescent arose with a duplicate horn, Astarte's bediamonded crescent, distinct with its duplicate horn. And I said, "She is warmer than Dian, she rolls through an ether of sighs, she revels in a region of sighs. She has seen that the tears are not dry on those cheeks where the worm never dies, and has come past the stars of the Lion to point us the path to the skies, to the Lethean peace of the skies. Come up, in despite of the Lion, to shine on us with her bright eyes. Come up, through the lair of the Lion, with love in her luminous eyes. But Psyche, uplifting her finger, said,
Sadly this star I mistrust, her pallor I strangely mistrust. Ah, hasten, ah, let us not linger. Ah, fly, let us fly, for we must.
In terror she spoke, letting sink her wings till they trailed in the dust. In agony sobbed, letting sink her plumes till they trailed in the dust, till they sorrowfully trailed in the dust. I replied, This is nothing but dreaming. Let us on by this tremulous light, let us bathe in this crystalline light. Its Sibyllic splendour is beaming with hope and in beauty to-night. See, it flickers up the sky through the night. Ah, we safely may trust to its gleaming, and be sure it will lead us aright. We safely may trust to a gleaming that cannot but guide us aright, since it flickers up to heaven through the night. Thus I pacified Psyche and kissed her, and tempted her out of her gloom, and conquered her scruples and gloom, and we passed to the end of the vista, but were stopped by the door of a tomb, by the door of a legended tomb. And I said, What is written, sweet sister, on the door of this legended tomb? She replied,
Ulalume, 'tis the vault of thy lost Ulalume.
Then my heart, it grew ashen and sober, as the leaves that were crisped and sere, as the leaves that were withering and sere. And I cried, It was surely October, on this very night of last year, that I journeyed down here, that I brought a dread burden down here, on this night, of all nights in the year. Ah, what demon has tempted me here? Well I know now this dim lake of Auber, this misty mid-region of Weir. Well I know now this dank town of Auber, this ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. End of poem.
Section 53 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Owl and the Pussycat by Edward Lear. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey, and plenty of money, wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The Owl looked up to the stars above, and sang to a small guitar. "Oh, lovely Pussy, oh, Pussy, my love, what a beautiful Pussy you are! You are, what a beautiful Pussy you are!" Pussy said to the Owl,
You elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing! Oh, let us be married, too long we have tarried. But what shall we do for a ring?
They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows, and there in a wood a piggy-wig stood, with a ring at the end of his nose, his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose.
Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring?
Said the piggy.
I will.
So they took it away, and were married next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince, and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon, and hand in hand, on the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon, the moon, the moon. They danced by the light of the moon. End of poem.
Section 54 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Portrait of a Lady by T.S. Eliot. Thou hast committed fornication, but that was in another country, and besides, the wench is dead. The Jew of Malta. 1. Among the smoke and fog of a December afternoon, you have the scene arrange itself, as it will seem to do, with
I have saved this afternoon for you.
and 4 wax candles in the darkened room, 4 rings of light upon the ceiling overhead, an atmosphere of Juliet's tomb, prepared for all the things to be said, or left unsaid. We have been, let us say, to hear the latest poet transmit the preludes through his hair and fingertips.
So intimate, this Chopin, that I think his soul should be resurrected, only among friends some 2 or 3, who will not touch the bloom that is rubbed and questioned in the concert room.
And so the conversation slips among velleities and carefully caught regrets, through attenuated tones of violins mingled with remote cornets, and begins.
You do not know how much they mean to me, my friends, and how rare and strange it is, to find in a life composed so much of odds and ends, for indeed I do not love it. You knew? You are not blind, how keen you are! To find a friend who has these qualities, who has and gives those qualities upon which friendship lives. How much it means that I say this to you. Without these friendships, life, what cauchemar!
Among the windings of the violins and the ariettes of cracked cornets, inside my brain a dull tom-tom begins, absurdly hammering a prelude of its own, capricious monotone that is at least one definite false note. Let us take the air in a tobacco trance, admire the monuments, discuss the late events, correct our watches by the public clocks, then sit for half an hour and drink our box. 2. Now that lilacs are in bloom, she has a bowl of lilacs in her room, and twists one in her fingers while she talks.
Ah, my friend, you do not know what life is. You should hold it in your hands.
Slowly twisting the lilac stalks.
You let it flow from you, you let it flow, and youth is cruel, and has no remorse, and smiles at situations which it cannot see.
I smile, of course, and go on drinking tea.
Yet with these April sunsets, that somehow recall my buried life, and Paris in the spring, I feel immeasurably at peace, and find the world to be wonderful and youthful, after all.
The voice returns like the insistent out of tune of a broken violin on an August afternoon.
I am always sure that you understand my feelings, always sure that you feel, sure that across the gulf you reach your hand. You are invulnerable, you have no Achilles heel. You will go on, and when you have prevailed you can say, "At this point many a one has failed." But what have I, my friend, to give you? What can you receive from me? Only the friendship and the sympathy of one about to reach her journey's end. I shall sit here serving tea to friends.
I take my hat. How can I make a cowardly amends for what she has said to me? You will see me any morning in the park, reading the comics on the sporting page. Particularly, I remark, an English countess goes upon the stage. A Greek was murdered at a Polish dance. Another bank defaulter has confessed. I keep my countenance, I remain self-possessed, except when a street piano, mechanical and tired, reiterates some worn-out common song, with the smell of hyacinths across the garden, recalling things that other people have desired. Are these ideas right or wrong? 3. The October night comes down, returning as before, except for a slight sensation of being ill at ease. I mount the stairs and turn the handle of the door, and feel as if I had mounted on my hands and knees.
And so you are going abroad, and when do you return? But that's a useless question. You hardly know when you are coming back. You will find so much to learn.
My smile falls heavily among the bric-a-brac.
Perhaps you can write to me.
My self-possession flares up for a second. This is as I had reckoned.
I have been wondering frequently of late, but our beginnings never know our ends, why we have not developed into friends.
I feel like one who smiles, and turning, shall remark suddenly his expression in a glass. My self-possession gutters. We are really in the dark.
For everybody said so, all our friends, they all were sure our feelings would relate so closely. I myself can hardly understand. We must leave it now to fate. You will write at any rate. Perhaps it is not too late. I shall sit here, serving tea to friends.
And I must borrow every changing shape to find expression. Dance, dance like a dancing bear, cry like a parrot, chatter like an ape. Let us take the air in a tobacco trance. Well, and what if she should die some afternoon, afternoon grey and smoky, evening yellow and rose, should die and leave me sitting pen in hand with the smoke coming down above the housetops, doubtful for quite a while, not knowing what to feel or if I understand, or whether wise or foolish, tardy or too soon. Would she not have the advantage after all? This music is successful with a dying fool, now that we talk of dying. And should I have the right to smile? End of poem.
Section 54 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Marry, Pity Women by Rudyard Kipling. You call yourself a man for all you used to swear, and leave me, as you can, my certain shame to bear? I hear, you do not care, you done the worst you know. I hate you grinning there, ah, God, I love you so.
Nice while it lasted, and now it is over. Tear out your heart and goodbye to your lover. What's the use of grieving when the mother that bore you, Mary, pity women, knew it all before you?
It are no false alarm, the finish to your fun. You have brung the arm, and I'm the ruined one. And now you'll off and run with some new fool in tow. Your heart? You haven't none. Oh, God, I love you so.
When a man is tired, there is naught will bind him. All he solemn promised he will shove behind him. What's the good of praying for the wrath to strike him? Mary, pity women, when the rest are like him.
What hope for me or it was left for us to do? I've walked with men a bit, but this is you. So help me Christ, it's true. Where can I hide or go? You coward through and through. Oh, God, I love you so.
All the more you give 'em, the less are they forgiven. Love lies dead, and you cannot kiss him livin'. Down the road he led you, there is no returnin'. Mary, pity women, but you're late in learnin'.
You'd like to treat me fair, you can't because we're poor. We'd starve, what do I care? We might, but this is sure. I want the name, no more. The name and lines to show, and not to be an oar. Ah, God, I love you so.
What's the good of pleadin' when the mother that bore you, Mary, pity women, knew it all before you? Sleep on his promises and wake to your sorrow. Mary, pity women, for we sail tomorrow. End of poem. Section 56 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. You Are Old, Father William by Lewis Carroll. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right?
In my youth.
Father William replied to his son.
I feared it might injure the brain, but now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again.
You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that?
In my youth,
Said the sage as he shook his grey locks.
I kept all my limbs very supple by the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple?
You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?
In my youth,
Said his father.
I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life.
You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?
I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough,
said his father.
Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. End of poem.
Section 57 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Two Voices by Alfred Lord Tennyson. A still small voice spake unto me.
Thou art so full of misery, were it not better not to be?
Then to the still small voice I said, Let me not cast in endless shade what is so wonderfully made. To which the voice did urge reply.
Today I saw the dragon-fly come from the wells where he did lie. An inner impulse rent the veil of his old husk, from head to tail came out clear plates of sapphire mail. He dried his wings, like gauze they grew, through crofts and pastures wet with dew, a living flash of light he flew.
I said, When first the world began, young Nature through 5 cycles ran, and in the 6th she moulded man. She gave him mind, the lordliest proportion, and, above the rest, dominion in the head and breast. Thereto the silent voice replied,
Self-blinded are you by your pride, look up through night, the world is wide. This truth within thy mind rehearse, that in a boundless universe is boundless better, boundless worse. Think you this mould of hopes and fears could find no statelier than his peers in yonder 100,000,000 spheres?
It spake, moreover, in my mind,
Though thou wert scattered to the wind, yet is there plenty of the kind.
Then did my response clearer fall. No compound of this earthly ball is like another, all in all. To which he answered scoffingly,
Good soul, suppose I grant it thee, who'll weep for thy deficiency? Or will one beam be less intense, when thy peculiar difference is cancelled in the world of sense?
I would have said, Thou canst not know, but my full heart that worked below ran through my sight its overflow. Again the voice spake unto me,
Thou art so steeped in misery, surely 'twere better not to be. Thine anguish will not let thee sleep, nor any train of reason keep. Thou canst not think, but thou wilt weep.
I said, The years with change advance, if I make dark my countenance, I shut my life from happier chance. Some turn this sickness yet might take, even yet. But he,
What drug can make a withered palsy cease to shake?
I wept. Though I should die, I know that all about the thorn will blow in tufts of rosy tinted snow. And men, through novel spheres of thought, still moving after truth long sought, will learn new things when I am not.
Yet,
Said the secret voice,
sometime, sooner or later, will grey prime make thy grass hoar with early rime. Not less swift souls that yearn for light, wrapped after heaven's starry flight, would sweep the tracks of day and night. Not less the bee would range her cells, the furzy prickle fire the dells, the foxglove cluster dappled bells.
I said that all the years invent, each month is various to present the world with some development. Were this not well, to bide mine hour, though watching from a ruined tower, how grows the day of human power?
The highest mounted mind,
He said,
still sees the sacred morning spread, the silent summit overhead. Will 30 seasons render plain those lonely lights that still remain, just breaking over land and main? Or make that morn, from his cold crown and crystal silence creeping down, flood with full daylight glebe and town? Forerun thy peers, thy time, and let thy feet millenniums hence be set in midst of knowledge dreamed not yet. Thou hast not gained a real height, nor art thou nearer to the light, because the scale is infinite. 'Twere better not to breathe or speak than cry for strength, remaining weak, and seem to find, but still to seek. Moreover, but to seem to find asks what thou lackest, thought resigned, a healthy frame, a quiet mind.
I said, when I am gone away, he dared not tarry, men will say, doing dishonour to my clay.
This is more vile,
He made reply,
to breathe and loathe, to live and sigh, than once from dread of pain to die. Sick art thou, a divided will, still heaping on the fear of ill the fear of men, a coward still. Do men love thee? Art thou so bound to men that how thy name may sound will vex thee, lying underground? The memory of the withered leaf in endless time is scarce more brief than of the garnered autumn sheaf. Go, vexed spirit, sleep in trust. The right ear that is filled with dust hears little of the false or just.
hard task to pluck resolve, I cried, from emptiness and the waste wide of that abyss, or scornful pride. Nay, rather yet that I could raise one hope that warmed me in the days while still I yearned for human praise, when, wide in soul and bold of tongue, among the tents I paused and sung, the distant battle flashed and rung. I sang the joyful paean clear, and sitting, burnished without fear the brand, the buckler, and the spear, waiting to strive a happy strife, to war with falsehood to the knife, and not to lose the good of life, some hidden principle to move, to put together, part and prove, and meet the bounds of hate and love as far as might be, to carve out free space for every human doubt, that the whole mind might orb about, to search through all I felt or saw, the springs of life, the depths of awe, and reach the law within the law. At least, not rotting like a weed, but having sown some generous seed, fruitful of further thought and deed, to pass, when life her light withdraws, not void of righteous self-applause, nor in a merely selfish cause, in some good cause, not in mine own, to perish, wept for, honoured, known, and like a warrior overthrown, whose eyes are dim with glorious tears, when, soiled with noble dust, he hears his country's war song thrill his ears. Then dying of a mortal stroke, what time the foeman's line is broke, and all the war is rolled in smoke.
Yea,
Said the voice,
thy dream was good while thou abodest in the bud, it was the stirring of the blood. If nature put not forth her power about the opening of the flower, who is it that could live an hour? Then comes the check, the change, the fall, pain rises up, old pleasures pall. There is one remedy for all. Yet hadst thou, through enduring pain, linked month to month with such a chain of knitted purport, all were vain. Thou hadst not between death and birth dissolved the riddle of the earth, so were thy labour little worth. That men with knowledge merely played, I told thee hardly nigher made, though scaling slow from grade to grade. Much less this dreamer, deaf and blind, named man, may hope some truth to find, that bears relation to the mind. For every worm beneath the moon draws different threads, and late and soon spins, toiling out his own cocoon. Cry, faint not, either truth is born beyond the polar gleam forlorn, or in the gateways of the morn. Cry, faint not, climb, the summit's slope beyond the furthest nights of hope, wrapped in dense cloud from base to cope. Sometimes a little corner shines, as over rainy mist inclines a gleaming crag with belts of pines. I will go forward, sayest thou, I shall not fail to find her now. Look up, the fold is on her brow. If straight thy track, or if oblique, thou knowest not. Shadows thou dost strike, embracing cloud, Ixion like, and owning but a little more than beasts, abidest lame and poor, calling thyself a little lower than angels. Cease to wail and brawl, why inch by inch to darkness crawl? There is one remedy for all.
O dull, one-sided voice, said I, wilt thou make everything a lie, to flatter me that I may die? I know that age to age succeeds, blowing a noise of tongues and deeds, a dust of systems and of creeds. I cannot hide that some have striven, achieving calm, to whom was given the joy that mixes man with heaven, who, rowing hard against the stream, saw distant gates of Eden gleam, and did not dream it was a dream, but heard, by secret transport led, even in the charnels of the dead, the murmur of the fountain head, which did accomplish their desire, bore and forbore, and did not tire, like Stephen, an unquenched fire. He heeded not reviling tones, nor sold his heart to idle moans, though cursed and scorned, and bruised with stones. But looking upward, full of grace, he prayed, and from a happy place God's glory smote him on the face. The sullen answer slid betwixt,
Not that the grounds of hope were fixed, the elements were kindlier mixed.
I said, I toil beneath the curse, but knowing not the universe, I fear to slide from bad to worse, and that, in seeking to undo one riddle, and to find the true, I knit 100 others new; or that this anguish, fleeting hence, unmanacled from bonds of sense, be fixed and frozen to permanence. For I go, weak from suffering here, naked I go, and void of cheer. What is it that I may not fear?
Consider well,
The voice replied,
his face that 2 hours since hath died. Wilt thou find passion, pain, or pride? Will he obey when one commands, or answer should one press his hands? He answers not, nor understands. His palms are folded on his breast, there is no other thing expressed but long disquiet, merged in rest. His lips are very mild and meek, though one should smite him on the cheek, and on the mouth, he will not speak. His little daughter, whose sweet face he kissed, taking his last embrace, becomes dishonour to her race. His sons grow up that bear his name, some grow to honour, some to shame, but he is chill to praise or blame. He will not hear the north wind rave, nor, moaning, household shelter crave from winter rains that beat his grave. High up the vapours fold and swim, about him broods the twilight dim. The place he knew forgetteth him.
If all be dark, vague voice, I said, these things are wrapped in doubt and dread, nor canst thou show the dead are dead. The sap dries up, the plant declines, a deeper tale my heart divines. Know I not death, the outward signs? I found him when my years were few, a shadow on the graves I knew, and darkness in the village yew. From grave to grave the shadow crept, in her still place the morning wept, touched by his feet the daisy slept. The simple censors crowned his head. Omega, thou art Lord, they said, we find no motion in the dead. Why, if man rot in dreamless ease, should that plain fact, as taught by these, not make him sure that he shall cease? Who forged that other influence, that heat of inward evidence by which he doubts against the sense? He owns the fatal gift of eyes that read his spirit blindly wise, not simple as a thing that dies. Here sits he, shaping wings to fly, his heart forebodes a mystery, he names the name Eternity. That type of perfect in his mind, in nature can he nowhere find, he sows himself in every wind. He seems to hear a heavenly friend, and through thick veils to apprehend a labour working to an end. The end and the beginning vex his reason, many things perplex with motions checks and counterchecks. He knows a baseness in his blood at such strange war with something good, he may not do the thing he would. Heaven opens inward, chasms yawn, vast images in glimmering dawn, half shown, are broken and withdrawn. Ah, sure within him and without, could his dark wisdom find it out, there must be answer to his doubt. But thou canst answer not again, with thine own weapon art thou slain, or thou wilt answer but in vain. The doubtward rest I dare not solve, in the same circle we revolve, assurance only breeds resolve. As when a billow, blown against, falls back, the voice with which I fenced a little ceased, but recommenced.
Where wert thou when thy father played in his free field, and pastime made, a merry boy in sun and shade? A merry boy they called him then, he sat upon the knees of men in days that never come again, before the little ducks began to feed thy bones with lime, and ran their course, till thou wert also man. Who took a wife, who reared his race, whose wrinkles gathered on his face, whose troubles number with his days. A life of nothings, nothing worth, from that first nothing ere his birth, to that last nothing under earth.
These words, I said, are like the rest, no certain clearness, but, at best, a vague suspicion of the breast. But if I grant, thou mightst defend the thesis which thy words intend, that to begin implies to end. Yet how should I for certain hold, because my memory is so cold, that I first was in human mould? I cannot make this matter plain, but I would shoot, howe'er in vain, a random arrow from the brain. It may be that no life is found, which only to one engine bound falls off, but cycles always round. As old mythologies relate, some draught of Lethe might await the slipping through from state to state. As here we find in trances men forget the dream that happens then, until they fall in trance again. So might we, if our state was such as one before, remember much, as those two likes might meet and touch. But if I lapsed from nobler place, some legend of a fallen race alone might hint of my disgrace, some vague emotion of delight in gazing up an alpine height, some yearning toward the lamps of night. Or if through lower lives I came, though all experience past became consolidate in mind and frame, I might forget my weaker lot, for is not our first year forgot? The haunts of memory echo not. And men, whose reason long was blind, from cells of madness unconfined, oft lose whole years of darker mind. Much more, if first I floated free as naked essence, must I be incompetent of memory. For memory, dealing but with time, and he with matter, could she climb beyond her own material prime? Moreover, something is or seems that touches me with mystic gleams, like glimpses of forgotten dreams, or something felt, like something here, of something done, I know not where, such as no language may declare. The still voice laughed.
I talk,
Said he,
not with thy dreams. Suffice it thee, thy pain is a reality.
but thou, said I, hast missed thy mark, who sought'st to wreck my mortal ark, by making all the horizon dark. Why not set forth, if I should do this rashness, that which might ensue with this old soul in organs new? Whatever crazy sorrow saith, no life that breathes with human breath has ever truly longed for death. 'Tis life whereof our nerves are scant, O life, not death, for which we pant, more life and fuller, that I want. I ceased, and sat as one forlorn. Then said the voice in quiet scorn,
Behold, it is the Sabbath morn.
and I arose, and I released the casement, and the light increased with freshness in the dawning east, like softened airs that blowing steal, when meres begin to uncongeal, the sweet church bells began to peal. On to God's house the people pressed, passing the place where each must rest, each entered like a welcome guest. One walked between his wife and child, with measured footfall, firm and mild, and now and then he gravely smiled. The prudent partner of his blood leaned on him, faithful, gentle, good, wearing the rose of womanhood. And in their double love secure, the little maiden walked demure, pacing with downward eyelids pure. These three made unity so sweet, my frozen heart began to beat, remembering its ancient heat. I blessed them, and they wandered on. I spoke, but answer came there none. The dull and bitter voice was gone. A second voice was at mine ear, a little whisper, silver clear, a murmur,
Be of better cheer.
as from some blissful neighbourhood, a notice faintly understood.
I see the end and know the good.
A little hint to solace woe, a hint, a whisper breathing low.
I may not speak of what I know.
Like an Aeolian harp that wakes no certain air, but overtakes far thought with music that it makes. Such seemed the whisper at my side. What is it thou knowest, sweet voice? I cried.
A hidden hope.
The voice replied, so heavenly toned that in that hour from out my sullen heart a power broke like the rainbow from the shower. To feel, although no tongue can prove that every cloud that spreads above and veileth love itself is love. And forth into the fields I went, and nature's living motion lent the pulse of hope to discontent. I wondered at the bounteous hours, the slow result of winter showers. You scarce could see the grass for flowers. I wondered, while I paced along, the woods were filled so full with song, there seemed no room for sense of wrong. So variously seemed all things wrought, I marvelled how the mind was brought to anchor by one gloomy thought. And wherefore rather I made choice to commune with that barren voice than him that said,
Rejoice, rejoice. End of poem.
Section 58 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Making of Viola by Francis Thompson. A dialogue between the Father of Heaven and the angels. Spin, daughter Mary, spin, twirl your wheel with silver din. Spin, daughter Mary, spin, spin a tress for Viola.
Spin, Queen Mary, a brown tress for Viola.
Weave, hands angelical, weave a woof of flesh to pall. Weave, hands angelical, flesh to pall our Viola.
Weave, singing brothers, a velvet flesh for Viola.
Scoop young Jesus for her eyes, Wood-browned pools of paradise, young Jesus for the eyes of Viola.
Tint Prince Jesus, a dusket eye for Viola.
Cast a star therein to drown, like a torch in cavern brown, sink a burning star to drown, whelmed in eyes of Viola.
Lave Prince Jesus a star in eyes of Viola.
Breathe, Lord Paraclete, to a bubbled crystal meet. Breathe, Lord Paraclete, crystal soul for Viola.
Breathe, regal spirit, a flashing soul for Viola.
Child angels from your wings, fall the roseal hoverings, child angels from your wings, on the cheeks of Viola.
Linger rosy reflex, a quenchless stain on Viola.
All things being accomplished, saith the Father of heaven. Bear her down, and bearing sing, bear her down on spireless wing, bear her down, and bearing sing, with a sound of Viola.
Music as her name is, a sweet sound of Viola.
Wheeling angels past a spile, danced her down with sound of viol. Wheeling angels past a spile, descanting on Viola.
Sing in our footing a lovely lilt of Viola. Baby smiled, mother wailed, earthward while the sweetling sailed. Mother smiled, baby wailed, when to earth came Viola. And her elders shall say, so soon have we taught you a way to weep, poor Viola. Smile, sweet baby, smile, for you will have weeping while. Native in your heaven is smile. But your weeping, Viola? Whence your smiles we know, but whence your weeping, Viola? Our first gift to you is a gift of tears, my Viola. End of poem. Section 59 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Lady-Turned-Serving-Man by Anonymous. You beauteous ladies great and small, I write unto you, one and all, whereby that you may understand what I have suffered in this land. I was by birth a lady fair, my father's chief and only heir, but when my good old father died, then I was made a young knight's bride. And then my love built me a bower, bedecked with many a fragrant flower, a braver bower you ne'er did see than my true love did build for me. But there came thieves late in the night, they robbed my bower and slew my knight, and after that my knight was slain, I could no longer there remain. My servants all from me did fly in the midst of my extremity, and left me by myself alone, with a heart more cold than any stone. Yet, though my heart was full of care, Heaven would not suffer me to despair, wherefore in haste I changed my name from fair Elise to sweet William. And therewithal I cut my hair and dressed myself in man's attire, and in my beaver, hose and band I travelled far through many a land, with a silver rapier by my side, so like a gallant I did ride. The thing that I delighted on, it was to be a serving man. Thus in my sumptuous man's array I bravely rode along the way, and at the last it chanced so, that I to the king's court did go. Then to the king I bowed full low, my love and duty for to show, and so much favour I did crave, that I a serving man's place might have.
Stand up, brave youth,
The king replied,
thy service shall not be denied, but tell me first what thou canst do, thou shalt be fitted thereunto. Wilt thou be usher of my hall, to wait upon my nobles all? Or wilt thou be taster of my wine, to wait on me when I do dine? Or wilt thou be my chamberlain, to make my bed both soft and fine? Or wilt thou be one of my guard? And I will give thee thy reward.
Sweet William, with a smiling face, said to the king, If't please your grace to show such favour unto me, your chamberlain I fain would be. The king then did the nobles call to ask the counsel of them all, who gave consent sweet William he the king's own chamberlain should be. Now mark what strange thing came to pass, as the king one day a hunting was, with all his lords and noble train, sweet William did at home remain. Sweet William had no company then with him at home but an old man, and when he saw the house was clear he took a lute which he had there. Upon the lute sweet William played, and to the same he sang and said, with a sweet and noble voice which made the old man to rejoice. My father was as brave a lord as ever Europe did afford, my mother was a lady bright, my husband was a valiant knight, and I myself a lady gay, bedecked with gorgeous rich array. The bravest lady in the land had not more pleasure at command. I had my music every day, harmonious lessons for to play. I had my virgins fair and free, continually to wait on me. But now, alas, my husband's dead, and all my friends are from me fled. My former joys are past and gone, for I am now a serving man. At last the king from hunting came, and presently, upon the same, he called for this good old man, and thus to speak the king began.
What news, old man?
Quoth he.
What news hast thou to tell to me? Brave news,
the old man he did say.
Sweet William is a lady gay. If this be true thou tell'st to me, I'll make thee lord of high degree. But if thy words do prove a lie, thou shalt be hanged up presently.
But when the king the truth had found, his joys did more and more abound. According as the old man did say, sweet William was a lady gay. Therefore the king without delay put on her glorious rich array, and upon her head a crown of gold, which was most famous to behold. And then, for fear of further strife, he took sweet William for his wife. The like before was never seen, a serving man to be a queen. End of poem. Section 60 of Poetic Duets. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. 1. The Burial of the Dead. April is the cruelest month, breathing lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnberger See with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade, and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten, and drank coffee, and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russin, stamm aus Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, "Marie, Marie, hold on tight," and down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read, much of the night, and go south in the winter.
What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats, and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning, striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Frisch weht der Wind der Heimat zu, mein irisch Kind, wo weilest du?
You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They called me the Hyacinth Girl.
Yet, when we came back, late, from from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing, looking into the heart of light, the silence. Öd und leer das Meer.
Madame Sosostris, famous clairvoyant, had a bad cold, nevertheless is known to be the wisest woman in Europe with a wicked pack of cards. "Here," said she, "is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Look! Here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. Here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel, and here is the one-eyed merchant, and this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man. Fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking round in a ring. Thank you. If you see dear Mrs. Equitone, tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days."
Unreal city! Under the brown fog of a winter dawn. A crowd flowed over London Bridge, so many, I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill, and down King William Street, to where St. Mary Woolnoth kept the hours, with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. There I saw one I knew, and stopped him, crying, "Stetson, you who were with me in the ships at Mylae! That corpse you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year? Or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dog far hence that's friend to men, or with his nails he'll dig it up again." You, hypocrite lecteur, mon semblable, mon frère.
2. A Game of Chess. The chair she sat in, like a burnished throne, glowed on the marble, where the glass held up by standards wrought with fruited vines, from which a golden Cupidon peeped out. Another hid his eyes behind his wing. Doubled the flames of 7-branched candelabra, reflecting the light upon the table, as the glitter of her jewels rose to meet it. From satin cases poured in rich profusion. In vials of ivory and coloured glass unstoppered lurked her strange synthetic perfumes, unguent, powdered, or liquid. Troubled, confused, and drowned the sense in odours. Stirred by the air that freshened from the window, these ascended in fattening the prolonged candle flames, flung their smoke into the laquearia, stirring the pattern on the coffered ceiling. Huge seawood fed with copper burned green and orange, framed by the coloured stone, in which sad light a carved dolphin swam. Above the antique mantle was displayed, as though a window gave upon the sylvan scene, the change of Philomel, by the barbarous king so rudely forced. Yet there the nightingale filled all the desert with inviolable voice, and still she cried, and still the world pursues. Jug jug to dirty ears. And other withered stumps of time were told upon the walls. Staring forms leaned out, leaning, hushing the room enclosed. Footsteps shuffled on the stair. Under the firelight, under the brush, her hair spread out in fiery points, glowed into words, then would be savagely still.
My nerves are bad tonight. Yes, bad. Stay with me. Speak to me. Why do you never speak? Speak. What are you thinking of? What thinking? What? I never know what you are thinking. Think.
I think we are in Rat's Alley where the dead men lost their bones.
What is that noise?
The wind under the door.
What is that noise now? What is the wind doing?
Nothing again, nothing.
Do you know nothing? Do you see nothing? Do you remember nothing?
I remember. Those are pearls that were his eyes.
Are you alive or not? Is there nothing in your head? But oh, that Shakespearean rag! It's so elegant, so intelligent.
What shall I do now? What shall I do? I shall rush out as I am, and walk the street with my hair down so. What shall we do tomorrow? What shall we ever do?
The hot water at 10, and if it rains, a closed car at 4. And we shall play a game of chess, pressing lidless eyes, and waiting for a knock upon the door.
When Lear's husband got demobbed, I said, I didn't mince my words, I said to her myself.
Hurry up, please, it's time.
Now Albert's coming back, make yourself a bit smart. He'll want to know what you done with that money he gave you to get yourself some teeth. He did, I was there. You have them all out, Lil, and get a nice set, he said. I swear, I can't bear to look at you. And no more can't I said. And think of poor Albert. He's been in the army 4 years. He wants a good time, and if you don't give it him, there's others will, I said. Oh, is there? She said. Something like that, I said. Then I'll know who to thank, she said, and give me a straight look.
Hurry up, please, it's time.
If you don't like it, you can get on with it, I said. Others can pick and choose if you can't. But if Albert makes off, it won't be for lack of telling. You ought to be ashamed, I said, to look so antique, and are only 31. I can't help it, she said, pulling a long face. It's them pills I took to bring it off, she said. She's had 5 already and nearly died of young George. The chemist said it would be all right, but I've never been the same. You are a proper fool, I said. Well, if Albert won't leave you alone, there it is, I said. What you get married for if you don't want children?
Hurry up, please, it's time.
Well, that Sunday Albert was home, they had a hot gammon, and they asked me in to dinner to get the beauty of it hot.
Hurry up, please, it's time. Hurry up, please, it's time.
Good night, Bill. Good night, Lou. Good night, May. Good night. Ta-ta. Good night. Good night. Good night, ladies. Good night, sweet ladies. Good night. Good night. 3. The Fire Sermon. The river's tent is broken. The last fingers of leaf clutch and sink into the wet bank. The wind crosses the brown land unheard. The nymphs are departed. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. The river bears no empty bottles, sandwich papers, silk handkerchiefs, cardboard boxes, cigarette ends, or other testimony of summer nights. The nymphs are departed, and their friends, the loitering heirs of city directors, departed, have left no addresses. By the waters of Lemon I sat down and wept. Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song. Sweet Thames, run softly, for I speak not loud or long. But at my back, in a cold blast, I hear the rattle of the bones, and chuckle spread from ear to ear.
A rat crept softly through the vegetation, dragging its slimy belly on the bank, while I was fishing in the dull canal, on a winter evening round behind the gas-house, musing upon the king, my brother's wreck, and on the king, my father's death before him. White bodies naked on the low damp ground, and bones cast in a little low dry garret, rattled by the rat's foot only, year to year. But at my back, from time to time, I hear the sound of horns and motors, which shall bring Sweeney to Mrs. Porter in the spring. Oh, the moon shone bright on Mrs. Porter and on her daughter. they wash their feet in soda water. Et oh, ces voix d'enfants, chantant dans la coupole.
Twit, twit, twit.
Jug, 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 so rudely forced to do.
Unreal city. Under the brown fog of a winter noon, Mr. Eugenides, the Smyrna merchant, unshaven, with a pocket full of currants, CIF London, documents at sight, asked me in demotic French to luncheon at the Cannon Street Hotel, followed by a weekend at the Metropole. At the violet hour when the eyes and back turn upward from the desk, when the human engine waits like a taxi throbbing, waiting, I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breasts, can see at the violet hour, the evening hour that strives homeward and brings the sailor home from sea. The typist home at tea time clears her breakfast, lights her stove and lays out food in tins. Out of the window perilously spread her drying combinations touched by the sun's last rays. On the divan are piled, at night her bed, stockings, slippers, camisoles and stays. I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too awaited the expected guest. He, the young man carbuncular, arrives, a small house agent's clerk, with one bold stare, one of the low on whom assurance sits as a silk hat on a Bradford millionaire. The time is now propitious, as he guesses. The meal is ended, she is bored and tired, endeavours to engage her in caresses, which still are unreproved, if undesired. Flushed and decided, he assaults at once. Exploring hands encounter no defence. His vanity requires no response and makes a welcome of indifference.
And I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all, enacted on this same divan or bed. I, who have sat by Thebes below the wall, and walked among the lowest of the dead.
Bestows one final, patronizing kiss, and gropes his way, finding the stairs unlit. She turns and looks a moment in the glass, hardly aware of her departed lover. Her brain allows one half-formed thought to pass. Well, now that's done, and I'm glad it's over. When lovely woman stoops to folly and paces about her room again, alone, she smooths her hair with automatic hand and puts a record on the gramophone.
This music crept by me upon the waters, and along the Strand up Queen Victoria Street. O city, city, I can sometimes hear, beside a public bar in Lower Thames Street, the pleasant whining of a mandolin, and a clatter and a chatter from within, where fishmen lounge at noon, where the walls of Manuus Martyr hold inexplicable splendour of Ionian white and gold. The river sweats oil and tar, the barges drift with the turning tide, red sails, wide to leeward, swing on the heavy spar. The barges wash drifting logs down Greenwich Reach, past the Isle of Dogs. Wea la la, lea, wa la la, lea la la. Elizabeth and Leicester beating oars, the stern was formed a gilded shell, red and gold. The brisk swell rippled both shores. Southwest wind carried downstream the peal of bells, white towers. Wea la la, lea, wa la la, lea la la. Trams and dusty trees, Highbury bore me, Richmond and Kew undid me. By Richmond I raised my knees supine on the floor of a narrow canoe. My feet are at Moorgate, and my heart under my feet. After the event he wept. He promised a new start. I made no comment. What should I resent? On Margate sands I can connect nothing with nothing. The broken fingernails of dirty hands, my people, humble people, who expect nothing. La la.
To Carthage then I came, burning, 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 burning. O Lord, thou pluckest me out, O Lord, thou pluckest, burning.
4. Death by Water. Phlebas the Phoenician, a fortnight dead, forgot the cry of gulls, and the deep sea swell, and the profit and loss.
A current under sea picked his bones in whispers. As he rose and fell, he passed the stages of his age and youth, entering the whirlpool.
Gentile or Jew, O you who turn the wheel and look to windward, consider Phlebas, who was once handsome and tall as you.
5. What the Thunder Said. After the torchlight red on sweaty faces, after the frosty silence in the gardens, after the agony in stony places, the shouting and the crying, prison and palace and reverberation, of thunder, of spring, over distant mountains, he who was living is now dead, we who were living are now dying. With a little patience.
Here is no water, but only rock, rock, and no water, and the sandy road, the road winding above, among the mountains, which are mountains of rock without water. If there were water, we should stop and drink. Amongst the rock one cannot stop or think. Sweat is dry, and feet are in the sand. If there were only water amongst the rock, dead mountain mouth of carious teeth that cannot spit, here one can neither stand, nor lie, nor sit. There is not even silence in the mountains, but dry sterile thunder without rain. There is not even solitude in the mountains, but red sullen faces, sneer and snarl, from doors of mud-cracked houses.
If there were water and no rock, if there were rock and also water, a spring, a pool among the rock, if there were the sound of water only, not the cicada and dry grass singing, but sound of water over a rock, where the hermit thrush sings in the pine trees. Drip, drop, drip, drop, 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 drop. But there is no water. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together, but when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that on the other side of you?
What is that sound high in the air, murmur of maternal lamentation? Who are those hooded hordes swarming over endless plains, stumbling in cracked earth, ringed by the flat horizon only? What is the city over the mountains, cracks and reforms, and bursts in the violet air? Falling towers, Jerusalem, Athens, Alexandria, Vienna, London. Unreal.
A woman drew her long black hair out tight and fiddled whisper music on those strings, and bats with baby faces in the violet light whistled, and beat their wings, and crawled head downward, down a blackened wall, and upside down in air were towers, tolling reminiscent bells, that kept the hours, and voices singing out of empty cisterns and exhausted wells.
In this decayed hole among the mountains, in the faint moonlight, the grass is singing over the tumbled graves. About the chapel, there is the empty chapel, only the wind's home. It has no windows, and the door swings. Dry bones can harm no one. Only a cock stood on the roof tree. Cocco-rico, cocco-rico, in a flash of lightning. then a damp gust bringing rain.
Ganga was sunken, and the limp leaves waited for rain, while the black clouds gathered far distant over Himavant. The jungle crouched, humped in silence, then spoke the thunder. Da, Datta, what have we given? My friend, blood shaking my heart, the awful daring of a moment's surrender which an age of prudence can never retract. By this, and this only, we have existed, which is not to be found in our obituaries, or in memories draped by the beneficent spider, or under seals broken by the lean solicitor in our empty rooms. Dayadvam. I have heard the key turn in the door once, and turn once only. We think of the key, each in his prison. Thinking of the key, each confirms a prison. Only at nightfall, ethereal rumours revive for a moment a broken Coriolanus. Damyata. The boat responded gaily to the hand expert with sail and oar. The sea was calm. Your heart would have responded gaily, when invited, beating obedient to controlling hands.
I sat upon the shore, fishing, with the arid plain behind me. Shall I at least set my lands in order? London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Poi s'ascosa nel fuoco che lia fina, quando fiam uti Celidon. Oh, swallow, swallow. La branche d'Aquitaine à la tour abolie. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. Why then I'll fit you, Hieronymo's mad again. Datta, Dayadvam, Damyata. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. End of poem. End of Poetic Duets. Recording by Newgate novelist and Algie Pug.